In the series, the episode, The Time's Arrow, where Data went back to 19th century San Francisco, the 2-hour episode was predicated on the fact that there were these beings, these energy beings that could travel through time, and they had the ability to feed off of humans' emotions, feelings, and they would capture them, pull it out of their body, and then subsequently take it to the hive to be consumed, much like a straw. And it got me thinking about the fact that today, the vast majority of people don't believe there are other life forms around them. Oh, they'll believe, if you're particularly of a religious indoctrination, you have your boogeymen, the demons, but you really don't see them, Most people aren't bothered by them, so why should I be, right? Whew. The reality of that is they're everywhere. That it is possible to see these. Not only is it possible to see them, it's actually possible to encounter them. If you're versed in lucid dreaming, astral traveling, meditating, getting into self-hypnosis or trance, when you become aware of them, it changes. And it's like those of you who've ever been out hunting or have served in the military. You know that the standard issue is camouflage. Why? Because it helps you blend in to the background. Where I find it very interesting, the series that the Expedition Bigfoot, they're using the technology and they're capturing what we now know are these other beings. But getting back to the camo, so the idea is to blend into the background. And the uninitiated, yeah, boy, it has a lot of meaning, doesn't it? The uninitiated, the untrained, their perceptual vision, they don't see anything. They see a undisturbed background. But if you've been trained and understand how it's done, the technique, and the fact that it is being done, you have a tactical advantage over the individual who doesn't see anything. We all have a natural conduit to our 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th senses. Right now, we're trapped in the density where we relate this reality to electrical stimuli and chemical maturation. That defines the reality here. But we have the ability, because we are immortals, we have these other abilities that naturally seep in. That's why they brainwash us so early to tell us that that doesn't exist. They manipulate it into what becomes our reality. Learn how to get rid of these things, these egregores. They exist, they're real. They may have different names, but nevertheless, they are there, always have been. These egregores. And if you banish them, now you can literally sacrifice them on your own sacrificial altar. Now, if this was the first time for you hearing this, well, welcome, welcome to the reality of the real. By the time you get into adulthood, you're very well versed at sacrificing many different things, your childhood, your puppy love, the crushes. It becomes even stronger. Well, that's an egregore that has attached itself to that. It feeds off of that. Just picture a straw in the center of your mind, and we are the smorgasbord. We are the buffet. And don't tell me that you already know, because you're fitting. If you knew, then you would have wrote me and told me. How do you basically put an end to these egregores? And the thing about them is, sadly, more negative than they are positive. Why? Because humanity is more negative than positive. We see that everywhere. And we've all been the recipients of these Nibiru. That's what they are. They're wandering spirit thought forms. Not quite spirit, but they become. And they attach. Suddenly, where a person was having no issue at all, overnight, things change. And for the vast majority of the straights, they're going, what's happening? And, they're beginning to think, did I do something? And once it finds where it can actually put in, it's injecting into you, and it finds that reaction. David Berry says the trick is learning to comprehend which thoughts are your own, and then telling the ones that aren't of yours to take a hike. Exactly. But the vast majority of the population have psychic abilities. And there are many of us that once we get tuned in, we have exceptional skills. With 100 or less of a group who will focus, who will be disciplined to take a word, a single word, and begin to focus in on that word as what the group sees that word, we can focus on a target. And this has been proven so many times, it's absurd. We can do some stuff, folks. And the powers to be, the bots that are listening, et cetera, this scares the shit out of them. Because if there are, in fact, 100 disciplined minds that have the ability to chase away all the egregores, all the random thoughts, and focus but one, and it takes effort. Some people get headaches out of it. The first time that you do this, well, it's awakening something within you. But if we could do this, it's been proven, and why? Because it's been done before. We'll read, for example, there have been a number of spiritualist groups throughout the last couple hundred years that have done this. They created a cathedral. And the interesting thing is that, and Mark, you nailed it so well. I knew this 40 years ago. Where there's 2 or more gathered in my name, there I am in the midst of them. Where there are 2 or more as agreeing as touching anything, it shall be done for them. Where there's 2 or more that agree, whatever they bind on earth is bound in heaven, and whatever they loose on earth is loosed in heaven. Clues all over the place. Why? You see, Jesus Christ is not actually real, but Jesus Christ is an egregore. Very powerful one. Extremely powerful one. Why? Because it has the daily devotion of nearly 2 billion people. And if you get the real serious ones, you're down to a little less than 1 billion. But nevertheless, every day they read their Bible. Every day they pray. They actually set aside time where they do this devotion. And the real interesting thing is that when you look at the structure of these subgroups, for instance, a church, a coven, then you have the individual masses. Now, these are individuals who will agree that although they're not there in person, they will, at 6 a.m., for the next 10 or 15 minutes, sometimes it's 30 minutes, they will do a prayer at the same time that they have found a reciprocated power source. And then if you get 5, 10, 15, 20, 1,000 who at 6 a.m. all come together at the same time with the singleness of thought, shit happens, man. And it's been right there in front of us. It's not the fact that there is, in fact, a real physical being. That doesn't matter. What is important is that in the ethereal, this is a real being. It's powerful. But so are many other type of egregores of its class. But the point cannot be lost here, that it is these small groups that when they come together, disciplined, singleness of thought, they change things. They literally can change a person's reality. I have seen it happen over and over again. When I was the CEO of my company back in Austin, back in the late 90s, I had a room specifically built for my employees where they could go in and meditate. And I treated my employees exceptionally well because I knew that when they were in there meditating, that they were going to be meditating good thoughts for the egregore that I built, that I took over. That's what companies are. Companies are literally life forms. Google is a real egregore, powerful one. I dare say that most likely they are very much aware of this as well. Many companies are. Symbology, sigils, symbols, all are part. The one that you see right over there. Yeah, that's a prosperity sigil. It was made for me by one of the Soul Tribe members a couple of years ago. It works, even when I'm not even aware of it. So here, there's at least, I know, 10 people who are disciplined enough that we could come together at a certain hour together, meditating on a single word. This is how we get better at it. But if we were to do this for 10 minutes, it would be amazing to begin to see, because what we're actually doing is that we are creating our own egregore. And the interesting thing about creating these group consciences is that they can be both positive, if that's what the group is at, or they can unfortunately default to a much more lazier, lower vibration, and then just basically become a pain in the ass because not enough humans put them out of their misery. I mean, nobody likes the idea of oblivion, but hey, it's like, hey, dude, what that like? But yeah. And the point that the book was bringing out is that this is how, get this, we were talking about this on Saturday, this is how movements start. This is how they become revolutions. And once they become revolutions, they actually become part of the evolution. There's so much power available to us, but we're so inhibited by our upbringings. And whether you were impacted by religion or not, you still were. The sad thing is that this hierarchy, it covers the entire freaking planet. It's an energy, and long-lived. In fact, Mark brings out in his book, where we will read this, and may not even get to it in the reading today, but you can resurrect ancient egregores. You see, a thought form, unless it's literally obliterated by its creator, it will find its own existence. And it's like Lilith. I think this channel's probably done more in elevating Lilith to her rightful position of respect and honor. And it only took one mind that began to join to another, and that particular video series has 30, 40,000 views combined on it. And that has started other things. Other people that were looking for Lilith have found her through those videos. Look what we did. We either were part of resurrecting her as the thought form, or we certainly added to it. This group, again, has the ability. And the larger the groups, and this is the interesting thing about channels like in social media, most of these people are drawn because of the entertainment value, or because of what I call the endorphin drip. Bad news, despairing news has a release of certain endorphins. Well, these egregores, they feed off that. They can see it. They can sense it. It actually saturates your auroric field. It points you out that you're a prime candidate for a particular action. My point is that the creators of these channels never really fully take advantage of what's really happening. They don't know. They're unaware that what they have created has now become alive. And it will have its effects, both positive and negative. We're going to get into that. But here is the sad part. For the most part, these channels never tap into this source that they've created. And as the subscriptions grow, people unawarely lend and give to that creation. The egregore gets stronger. It begins to have tentacles where it spreads out in feeding other thought forms. Now, how many channels are out there? I'd like to know. I don't know this. I'm just asking, that are attempting to do what we're trying to do, what I'm talking about here. We have the opportunity of immense power. This group is probably one of the strongest group of adepts that I know of. There are masters within this group. We bring with us this light, this eternal energy, this source. We've carried it through multiple lifetimes, multiple incarnations. It's why we do what we do. Now, I wonder if we can remove the scales from our proverbial eyes and see the vast potential that we have here. I was thinking about doing this through a spirit board, but we don't need to do that. In fact, the thing that we have, the master ability, which has been proven. This experiment they did with the Zenith Corporation at NBC, they showed conclusively every human being can and does communicate telepathically. They have tapped in and they siphon this off, call it entertainment, television, television, radio. We didn't even realize what they were doing. And now you've got the streaming. This is all conducted telepathically. It's a fact. You can go read the experiments, you can go see exactly the results. And that's what freaked them out. What they had to figure out was then how do you block this, but at the same time allow it to go forth that basically captured all of us. Now, entertainment is the biggest thing out there. It's the number one industry outside of religion and politics. It's how it's done. So there are more intuitives here, more empaths, more psychics, more witches, warlocks, wizards, angelics, divine ones in this group I know personally. So what's our excuse here? What are we afraid of? What, you don't have enough time in your day? Are you completely satisfied with your position in life? Have you gotten everything? Are you fully satisfied? Have you accomplished everything? Do you feel limited? Do you feel restricted? Do you feel trapped? This group has been meeting now for nearly well over 5 years. We have built something that most of us have been completely unaware and ignorant of. Now the question is, do you want to help build it? Do you want to help be part of actually constructing it into a place where anyone can come to? There's a vast amount of energy, vast amount of power. And the thing about it is, if we get this harnessed, it draws in what we call these other beings of a positive nature. It repels the very negative. This is why this group continues to succeed. It stays small, but that's all right. Small is powerful. So if you're kind of digging the vibe where I'm at, let me know. Otherwise, what are you doing? What are you accomplishing? I mean, what's the purpose? If you cannot feed yourself, how are you going to feed others? I mean, seriously. But if you're well satisfied and fed, you can show others how they can become that way. The universe is not in lack. There is no shortage in this physical plane. There isn't. This physical plane has an unending energy source. And as we were talking about with the ladies of the Soul Tribe, we can manipulate energy. And this is the first step to doing that. We'll start out small. That's what we'll do. And then from there, we'll start to grow. Now, if this is something that you really would like to be a part of, I'd say let's email. And we'll probably do a private Zoom. And those of you who wanted to do work with me on the spirit board, I think this is where we should be at. We have these natural talents and ability. I'd like to strengthen mine. I used to be a runner. And the thing about running, and many of you who run still do, be cautious of your knees. But as you know, I was putting in about 10 miles a day. You don't start out running 10 miles a day. You know, you take it in small increments. And as we build up resistance, we expand that out. And within a defined group, what a wonderful opportunity. And it doesn't have to be real complicated. Like I said, we'll start out using, as they have done in the past, using keywords. And as the process goes, from there we take notes. We say, okay, this is what I got. We compare notes and then we do it again. And then we compare notes. See, Melinda, this is an opportunity. And the thing that what they found with the first radio broadcast, and as they were conducting, and you could go, and back in those days, because I always keep these close by, this is what they were giving out. Zenith would send this to their dealers would then give these out to their customers, and they were the cards. And this is how they conducted the experiments. And wow, I mean, this is what the results was. Yeah. So I think we can do this. I've been thinking about this, this would probably be a good Saturday thing. Maybe even a Sunday, hey, Nina, doing this. And we'll only do it one day a week to begin with. And that way, everyone can prepare, everyone can be hopefully in a state that when we do the experiment, and I think that we'll do it like they did in the past, we'll do it in 10-minute increments. It's going to be interesting. And the fact that this show, we have Soul Tribe members all around the world, that means what we're immediately doing is that we're doing that connecting thing of the 24/7. It'd be pretty far out, actually, to have every time zone covered. But I think this is how we can do it, folks. This is something that we can work on a community project. We can impact and change lives. We have that power. We have that ability. We're not really doing anything new. This has been done in small circles and much larger ones. I'm excited to see that we have an opportunity here. And, we've got some pretty sharp people here. And that's what we do. We're creative beings. We're supposed to create. And that's what we do. So that now we're going to do something where we actually harness the thing. Ideally, like to keep it less than 100. But hey, and you have to be serious. We'll decide what day. I'm just suggesting maybe Sunday. It's kind of like a day where, it's pretty much downtime anyway. And that would be less interference. And we could then project out and see what the rest of that would look like. Okay? Full out. Thanks for hitting the like button, and this is, I tell you, I have an anticipation within all of us that should we commit to this and actually execute this, there is no doubt our lives individually will become impacted, change, and that becomes the plateau, the foundation, of where others begin to see the proof. Folks, the world needs some changing. I believe that we can be the impetus for that. We can be the tip of the spear, but we have to get versed. And again, we'll exercise. We'll get ourselves in shape, And I anticipate if it's probably the normal process, we're probably looking at 6 weeks before we start really seeing results with the core group. And we'll find out who the core group really is very quickly. And beyond that, from what I've read of others who have done this in the past, and I'm talking the last couple hundred years, dramatic changes took place in every person's life. And if it's done with the focus and the intent that this group possesses, and I know can do, you become basically a well. This is a life-giving well, where, what I call soul-thirsty spirits are going, all right, we can find nourishment here. All right, folks, much love to you. See you tomorrow with Miss Trina. Let me know what you think. Please email me. Email address is below in the description box, and we'll see everyone tomorrow. All right, much love, everyone. See you later. I Ching says that if you truly want to see what the future is, all you have to do is focus on what are the children focusing on.